Rag's been around a while. He has heard the story quite a few times. Yeah.
I think I've heard it too, to be honest. That's...
Well, that story goes back before the SIth'ari theme. It goes way back.
Okay, well, I should say at this point that we are running. So this is Harbingers of the SIth'ari podcast number 2. I'm Zara. With me is Viccus.
Hey, what's up? This is Viccus.
I should also point out that you're our guild master. What else? We have Lynne with us.
Hey.
And Ragnarok.
Hello.
Okay, so I mean, we were just discussing this a bit just before we started recording, what we're getting into, but with the first podcast, it was like very technical. We were talking about the game, about, you know, the patches that were released and all that, and I thought for this one we could actually get more into the RP aspect, because we are an RP guild after all. And so let's touch off with, our name is the Harbingers of the SIth'ari, so let's talk about what exactly is the SIth'ari. I know you, Lynne, and you being Viccus, Lynne and I, we kind of have like an argument about who the SIth'ari actually is, but maybe you'd like to start off, Viccus.
Well, the whole SIth'ari theme started with one of the people who helped me found the guild. He's no longer around. He suggested the name back before I even knew about the prophecy, and then I looked into it a little bit, and I was really impressed with it. And for any who aren't familiar with the prophecy, it's basically a prophecy that tells of the perfect Sith who will one day lead all Sith to greatness. If I were to relate him to anything, he's kind of like the one who will bring balance to the Force of the Jedi, or he's kind of like Neo from the Matrix. He's the Messiah for the Sith, and it's debatable throughout the Star Wars storyline. In my opinion, it's debatable. Apparently, Lynne has found fact that that the SIth'ari, who the SIth'ari was. I've always debated that it could be this guy, could be that guy, but yeah, we thought it'd be a really good theme for us to be a little different than most Sith. You know, we're looking for someone who would essentially replace the Emperor.
Right, I mean, basically Lynne and I were on Team Bane, or I think you kind of favor it to be Palpatine, right?
No, I love Bane. Bane is my favorite Star Wars character of all time. But I like the SIth'ari to be mysterious. I like for it to be unknown who he is. So I actually dislike Palpatine. I give him credit, but I don't really like him that much. But I like for it to be unknown. I don't want it to be resolved as Bane, as much as I love him.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought of this from time to time, but, I mean, like in our lifetime, like in the guild storyline lifetime, it's like we will never like see the SIth'ari if like either Bane or Palpatine ends up being the SIth'ari.
Yeah, the whole idea is that possibly someone in our theme suggests that we're looking for him, and if we succeed, then that means that we have found someone maybe in our guild or something who is the SIth'ari. That obviously is not going to happen because supposedly there is a canon SIth'ari who is not going to be born for another 2,000 years, I think it is. I forget the exact number, but supposedly it's Bane for sure. So sorry to everyone listening, but you're not the SIth'ari. Neither am I. As much as I'd like Viccus to be a SIth'ari.
Could you imagine like the reaction if you actually announced yourself as being this SIth'ari? It's like people would think, man, that guy is like narcissistic.
Oh yeah, considering how Viccus
Yeah.
RP story wise started off as a Jedi, yeah, that would really be weird.
How ironic is that?
So yeah, I guess we touched on a bit about the Harbingers too, like our role. We were looking for the SIth'ari, and I found like our like our guild story like very interesting compared to like a lot of other guilds where it's just like yeah, we serve the Empire, that's it, not much else to it. I mean, I'm not saying that there are other guilds that have like excellent stories, but I find that they're few and far between with like other players that I talk to online.
Agreed. Most people, when they hear our theme, most people are used to and are expecting just a pretty plain for the Empire storyline, that sort of theme. And then whenever we say that we're actually a criminal organization, we're being hunted by the Dark Council because we're heretics in their eyes. We're trying to replace the Emperor. We're very pro-Empire, but our goal is controversial to the current leaders. So, and that's different. When people hear that storyline, they're like, well, that's different. So, I mean, we take a lot of pride in it.
Well, I just like, especially now, like the fact that the Harbingers are more or less outlaws of the Empire.
Yeah, that was actually. Go ahead, Lynn.
I was going to say, really, as our story has progressed, there was nothing else for us to do if we wanted to survive. We basically believe a prophecy that makes us traitors to the current emperor, and in order to survive, we had to look outside of the normal method of doing things, which in this case happens to be, criminal activity.
Right.
Yeah, we used to be just a pretty straightforward theme. We were looking for the SIth'ari, and then people would ask me, "So what are we doing to look for him?" And I would always have to, unfortunately, give them that answer of, "Well, there's not really much we can do to find the SIth'ari because supposedly it's Bane, so we got to just kind of sit here and twiddle our thumbs and just claim that we're looking for him." And I wasn't really satisfied with that, so one day a few of the other council members and I kind of conspired to come up with a turning point in our storyline. You know what? Let's become criminals. Our theme would piss off a lot of Dark Council members and everything, and that could make us outlaws. We could like be hiding out in Tatooine and dealing in like spice and stuff, and it would give us material for storyline progression.
Yeah, I remember when you took that into effect. We were like on Drum and Cos in the cantina, and I was RPing with you, Viccus, and you said like you took some kind of hollow message, and it was like very grim, very important. And then you like turned to Zara and said, "Yeah, I'm going to miss this cantina." And it's like, okay, well, what's happening? So like only like later on, it's like you filled me in. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like our last day on Kos, that we were allowed to be on Kos. Of course, out of character, we've been there a few times, but as part of our RP story, yeah, we don't go to Kos. And that was the last time.
Yeah. So what about the history of like the guild itself? I mean, you're one of the founding members. Well, you are the founding member. But you didn't start it alone. Maybe you'd like to tell us how it started off.
Okay, the quicker version is that we started out as, whenever I started playing this game, it was actually before the game released. I was on Korban one day, and me and another dude started up an RP guild, and he called it the Sons of Iron. He was the guild leader, and I was second in command. And his name was Vargas. I don't know if he's still around. but basically he had technical issues. He wasn't around much, and I was the de facto leader of the guild. And one day I did something that he didn't really approve of, and he started to tighten a leash on me. And a lot of our members were encouraging me, dude, just start your own guild or something, you know. And I was like, yeah, 'cause it was spiraling downward. It wasn't going anywhere. So I split off, and there were a few members who liked me enough to follow me. And those members were Lokfa, Zusir, I believe it was just them. And there were a couple of real-life friends that helped me start the new guild. And one of those real-life friends is the guy who named it the Harbingers of the SIth'ari. So ever since then, I implemented the apprentice and master system. That's when I implemented that, actually. That was something I always talked to Viccus about that I wanted to do, but he never really helped me get it rolling. So whenever the new guild came around, that's when I put that in place, and it has worked ever since. And Zusir disappeared a while, a couple of months after the guild was formed, a month or two after it was formed, and then Lokfa, he's still around. Hasn't been around the past few days, but he's still around. He and I are the only original members still enrolled in the Harbingers of the SIth'ari, and he actually came from the Sons of Iron with me.
Are the Sons of Iron, are they still around?
No.
So do you get like a little bit of satisfaction knowing that?
No, they disbanded. As far as I know, they disbanded immediately after I left. I never really heard anything of them after that. I saw Viccus once or twice, but oh, and it's worth noting that the character Viccus was actually created when I founded the guild. Like I left the Sons of Iron, made a new character, made him for the purpose of being the guild leader. Came up with his background story well after he was made. It was a couple of months into it. So, but yeah, he was destined to be in that position, which is why I'm so attached to him.
You mentioned earlier, like our ranking system, like, you know, having like a, you know, apprentice, master, captain, lieutenant. I was, like, when I first joined the guild, I was like immediately impressed with that. I thought that was very cool. And when I've recruited people in the past, and I, you know, come across this, everyone seems to be like really taken by it. They're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a common sense idea. It's like, oh well, yeah, why doesn't every guild have something like that? And I'm sure other guilds do. I know the Scions had something similar. They have like squads and stuff. Theirs is more military oriented, but I think actually making it effective is the difficult part. That's why you don't see it all that often. We're one of the only guilds that effectively does it, I would say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I want to ask, does like anyone like have like any like story about like when they were like first recruited into the guild? Like, you know, what were your impressions? What was like going on through your mind? You know, what was like the circumstances when you were being recruited? I mean, for me, it's...
Well, we all know how I got recruited. I want to hear all three of the stories, because those are good.
Well, I remember when I came across you, it was, at the time, I was just finding like the RP element very lacking, so I was just going from planet to planet, just kind of advertising an event that I had in mind in general chat. And then that's when I actually, like, you know, ran across you, and yeah, we met up at the Cantina in Drummondcast, and that's when we had the infamous rave party with all the glowing lightsabers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a significant landmark in our RP history. We used to not RP very much. That's something that should really be appreciated, and I think people are losing sight of it. We used to be a light RP guild. There was no RP in chat, and we never met up. I used to encourage RP chat in channel, but nobody ever did it. and people complained about that. We want more RP and stuff, and then we progressively became kind of medium RP because Zeusir one day put his foot down and said, let's do RP events. I need this. Like, I could tell he was considering leaving if he didn't have it. So I was like, fine, let's go to a cantina or something, RP. And we went there, and it turned out to be this huge party that we created, and that's where we met you.
What about you, Lynn? What was like your first encounter with the Harbingers?
I had someone that I knew that was in the guild, and they said it was an RP guild, but the only person that they had RP'd with was their master. So one day, Zeusir was recruiting in the general channel on, I don't know, maybe Alderaan, and that wasn't Balmora. But he was recruiting for an RP guild and not RPing any reason to join. So I gave him a really hard time about that, and he got a little bit snarky about it, and he sent me this very sarcastic RP recruitment statement, and he said, "Is that better?" And I said, "Yep, can I join now?" And he actually recruited me.
That's awesome. It's not often like when
Zeusir was our designated recruiter.
yeah, but it's not often when a potential recruitee puts the recruiter in his or her place. So what about you, Rag? What's your story?
Well, my story is, I actually met the guild probably like a few days after you did, Zara. This is back before Zeusir became the official recruiter. But he was, advertising an RP guild, and the guild that I had been in before did not do any RP, and I was starved for it, so I started talking to him, and things were sounding pretty good. So I actually met, the guild a couple days later. I think I saw, Viccus there. And at that stage in the game, I was like, okay, you guys are doing some RP, which is much more than what my other guild was doing. So I was like, okay, let's go. I'm ready to switch sides here. And it's definitely been, a nice, interesting change to see where we started off as to where we're at now.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I first started like with the game, like I tried to RP with just like random people like in a cantina, and it's like a lot of the times the reaction would be like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm RPing." Why? And my response was, "Why not? This is like an RP server." But yeah, it's I'm really glad to be in this group.
Yeah, and for anyone who is pretty new to our guild that that is from this server, you might not know that on Cathound, where we come from, we were one of 2 or 3 major RP guilds. We were very well known for our size. We were very small, and but we were one of the more well respected. I mean, the Scions were the huge RP guild that was just taking up everybody in that server, and but we still were holding our own and had quite a reputation. Despite being allies with this guild that's 2 or 3 times our size. So we have an interesting history. Our quality over quantity policy has carried us quite a ways.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this wraps it up, unless anyone else has anything to add.
Actually, for anybody who's not familiar with the SIth'ari prophecy and how we got that, the SIth'ari prophecy is this is how it goes. The SIth'ari will be free of limits. The SIth'ari will lead the Sith and destroy them. The SIth'ari will raise the Sith from death and make them stronger than before.
Yes, thank you. I was going to
It's not Bane.
bring that to the table. I'm glad you did. It is so Bane.
That is not Bane at all.
It's totally Bane. It is totally Bane.
It is Bane. That you just described Bane.
Yeah. So I'm going to be closing off now, and if you happen to catch this on YouTube, I'll leave a description to the guild website if you're interested in joining. As I said, we are the Harbingers of the SIth'ari, and we are on the Ebon Hawk server, and hopefully we'll see you at some point, if you're listening to this. So this is me, Zara, saying goodbye. Viccus.
This is Viccus. Later.
Lynne.
Ciao.
And Rag.
Hey, take care.